one neighbor that she was saying her bill was $1,200. She was going on Facebook.
Yeah, she lives right behind the clubhouse over there, Mary.
Yeah, Melissa.
Yeah,
I'm like $1,200. That's insanity.
Yeah, my neighbors were $600.
We are live.
Yeah, we're live. All right. I'm going to speak that tonight to see if you know it's live.
Okay, cool. The grass looks great though.
Mine looks terrible, and I have a huge bill.
Mine's dead.
Mine's going to be. I'm going to get in trouble here pretty soon.
Mine's dead too, but I water the garden. So
If I pass out, I just want you guys
water
to
my
believe
garden
me.
rather than the yard. We're live.
All right. Good evening. Are the microphones? Oh, there. All right, microphones are on. Good evening. It is Monday, it's Tuesday. I think I did this last time on Thursday, yes. Tuesday, September 30th.
Hold on. Thank you.
Let me go ahead and reset.
Yes.
That's too
Good evening. It's Tuesday, September 7th, 2021. It is 7:01 p.m. This is a regular meeting of the City Council of Woodland. At this time, if I could get everyone to silence your cell phones, and if you're online, to make sure your computer stays silent, and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Oh my God, sit down, Carl. Mrs. Anderson, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Rounds.
Here.
Councilmember Chapman.
Here.
Councilmember Holland.
Present.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Fredericks. Councilmember Plaza.
Here.
Councilmember Graham.
Here. Mr. Fredericks has called out this evening with the scheduling conflict. It is a Tuesday.
I make a motion to excuse Mr. Frederick.
Second. Moved by Councilmember Rounds. Second by Councilmember Chapman. Mrs. Anderson?
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza.
Aye. Mr. Fredericks has been excused. It's come to that point of the meeting for citizen communication for items not on the agenda. We have no one signed up at this time. Is there anyone in the gallery for items not on the agenda? Now's your opportunity to step forward.
My name is Shauna Goff.
If I can get you to get right up here to the microphone just so we can capture you, please.
My name is Shauna Gothorn, and I've been living in Woodland for about almost 5 years. I'd like to join the Planning Commission Board. I work for the City of Portland. I'm a business operations manager. I've been there for 24 years. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I'm also a cheer coach for the 5-6 youth Woodland team. I think it's important for the community to get involved, and I also need new faces and new blood in here. I'm almost 43 years old. I have experience in maintenance and construction. That's who I work for, the Water Bureau Maintenance and Construction. And I think that I will bring new ideas, I just think it's really good for the community to get involved. And I put in an application. I don't know if it was received or not.
It was.
I spoke with Mr. Boyce and Mr. Goodard on the phone, and they were so helpful. And I'm not really 100% sure how all of this works. So it's all new to me, but I would like to join. I understand it's a volunteer position. I'm a single mom, and I will have daycare provided for my daughter on nights that I will need to be available. I live off of Lilac Lane on the water. I live at 490. It's just me and my daughter. Do you have any questions for me?
I normally make my calls on Monday, but yesterday was a holiday, so.
That's okay.
Mr. Goddard did send me a message.
That's
and
okay.
I was out of town, so.
Okay.
I'll give you a call and we can discuss, for there is one other applicant that put in
Okay.
as well. But you are the first one that's ever shown up to a meeting and asked to be placed on a board.
Because I think it's important to get involved. And my position at my job as a manager is very important to me. And so I kind of tell my staff that it's important to get involved. And this is where I live and where I want to raise my daughter, so I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you very much for introducing yourself this evening.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And Ms. Coleman just walked in. And I didn't put her name tag out, but For some reason, I didn't think she was coming tonight.
Good evening, Ms. Coleman. I apologize.
I'll get your name tag soon.
She kept talking at the meeting.
Anyone online for items not on the agenda? Now is your opportunity to step forward and speak. Seeing none. It should just be right in the front there. Moving on to citizen communications for items on the agenda. There's no one signed up in the gallery this evening, but now's your opportunity to step forward for items on the agenda. Are you here to speak tonight, sir? Sir, are you here to speak this evening?
I was just gonna sit in.
Oh, that's fine. We're in citizen communication at this moment, but if you're not, that's fine. Have a seat and welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone for online for items on the agenda this evening? All right. We do have one citizen communication for one item that is on the agenda this evening, which is going to be action item. Stand by. It's the water system plan, which would be H and I. We have in front of you from Miss Jennifer Keene. She has the first portion of that. The second portion of the email is for the workshop this evening. But there's some information there for you to read. As we kind of go through here, she's put some thoughts down on paper for you to consider. Come to the portion of the agenda, to this evening's agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Chapman, second by Councilmember Plaza. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Hull?
Aye.
The agenda's been approved. We have no public hearings this evening. Moving on to reports of City Council. Seeing none. Moving on to reports of standing committees. Public safety.
One moment, please.
Mrs. Graham.
We met tonight and we discussed existing, well, it's BWC, which apparently I do not know what it stands for. What does the BWC stand for?
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Well, that
I don't
makes
think
two.
we mentioned that.
Huh? Is it the name of the company?
It might be.
Yeah.
Is that
about
body cams?
Yes.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
Yes, that's body
okay.
cameras.
Anyway, existing funding and potential benefits of the, for police use. Chief Kelly explained to the committee and the recent bid obtained for the purchases of body-worn cameras being looked at by the department. And the chief provided information on what the cameras are and their capabilities, including battery life and video storage device. The purchase would potentially be made through WatchGuard pending council approval later this year to meet the January 1st, 22 deadline. The purchase would include hardware, software updates, unlimited cloud storage, and redaction software. Chief will be attending a presentation by their representative to obtain further details on the product. And then from our old business, it says from our May 17 meeting and July 6 meeting, the Lower Columbia SWAT ILA, Chief Kelly informed the committee that the mayor's signature is requested on an amended letter on an amended interlocal agreement with the Lower Columbia SWAT team for vehicle purchase of a new Bearcat light armored vehicle. The amended ILA is due to an agency postponing its commitment to the agreement. This does not change the City of Woodland's obligation to the LCSWAT. And our next meeting is October 1st, 2021.
Questions for Mrs. Graham? And that agreement is, again, somebody's name just dropped off there. There's nothing changed in the agreement.
Yeah. Correct.
All right. Mrs. Rounds, Public Works.
Yes, we met at 5:30 today. Under water, we are up to date on our cross connections. And under miscellaneous, the number 3 pump will be installed sometime this month. Water general is water leaks due to settler's pipe failure. They're about 20 years old, and they're replacing them about 4 a month, so as they fail. Backflow has been tested and approved. And under sewer, lift station the lift station plugs, general, on August 24th, we had Calix clean sweep back out 3, 6, and 7, and 9, 3, and 6, and 7 were done in July also. This is the our contract that we have. Grease trap program, the grease trap program is on schedule, and we're trying various, we are TVing various lines throughout town to make sure that everything is okay with those. We are sweeping to occur late November, and torch and crosswalks this month. Lakeside, the bike lane to be painted on Atlantic, and a merging lane to be torched down at exit 21 towards Arco and Coffee Shop. Police station, landscaping completed with bark dust. The school on 100 Davidson, the school had a successful turnout this year with being able to use that to get their athletes in good shape, and so they were very thankful for the use of that building. Fencing, this is for the shop. Fencing will go out to bid sometime this month for fence repair. And the parks, we have another volunteers to help with the gazebo. Last summer night was August the 27th, and successful turnout of construction equipment and sponsors, and it looked like it was a big turnout, and it was a great success this year. Other, Gilligan's Island has been weeded, sprayed, and will bark dust later this month. Roundabout, the Kiwanis group did an amazing job on the roundabout, so the sign has been installed, and we'll be working on our entrance city signs now too. They volunteered to take over once we get it in shape. So, Make a Difference Day is still planned to happen in October this year. Dennis is to follow up with the school district with Mary Sturdivant to see if that's still a goal. And as far as grants are concerned, we have 3 grants out for Exit 21, and hopefully we'll get some of that, which is quite a few $1 million. So, and we will meet again on next month at 5:30.
All right. Questions for Mrs. Rounds? Seeing none. I'm still very impressed with Davidson, by the way. Driving down, or is it Garrett? Because it turns into Davidson,
It's
right?
still Garrett.
Yeah. It's still. I haven't spilled one drop of coffee coming out of Red Leaf yet. So, as previously stated multiple times before. So, well done. Thank you for doing that.
You do 35 down there.
I mean, yeah, I can do 35 down that street. Seeing no questions from Mrs. Rounds, moving on to reports of standing committee. Mrs. Graham, Chamber of Commerce.
We still are meeting at Casa Tapatia on every Tuesday from 12 to 1 for our luncheons. It's been interesting. We've had the candidates for the school board speak the last 2 weeks. It's a hot topic in town. The chamber is still looking for an employee, so you can call our executive director Denise Miller at 225-9552 and get the information from her. And then on September the 23rd, there will be an after hours. It's Give More 24. It will be held at Columbia Bank along with the Laluska Foundation, and it is their fundraising event. And
What date was that, Janice?
the 23rd of September.
23rd.
And it's usually 5 to 7, and I don't know if they're going to be doing it during the day. That I am not sure of. But I know our activity, the chamber activity, is from 5 to 7. And then the chamber will be holding their annual meeting on October the 5th, where we will update our board members and have elections for our officers. So if there's any business person that belongs to chamber that would be interested in becoming part of the board, please give Denise a call at 225-9552, and she will get you the proper information for that. And that's it for now.
Questions for Mrs. Graham? Seeing none. Mrs. Graham, anything for DWR?
Not that I am aware of. No.
No? Okay, not this time, all right.
Just a quick question. What's the position that they're hiring for at the chamber? Is that at the visitor center?
It would be for the visitor center, yes.
Gotcha.
All right. Moving on to reports, I have a few things to cover this evening. Number one, the golf tournament. I don't think we've talked about. We haven't met since the golf tournament, have we? Did we? Because I don't think I got to brag.
Special meeting.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so my team came in second. On the second, just saying, came in second. Mr. Goddard, myself, Chief Kelly, and Chief Kelly's son, James, we were phenomenal.
That was the top flight.
That was, I think so.
Yes,
I don't remember, I just
so.
know we won.
I think so.
I just know we came in second. It was amazing. Once again, an awesome turnout. It was nice seeing Representative Orcutt, Avarno, City Council Member Smith was there. I don't know how well you guys did though on your team.
Political people do not golf well.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Well, it was a good show. It was a good showing, so good job. Had a great time. Looking forward to next year, hopefully. Get to do it again. So it's always a good time. There's lots of folks there. The chamber did a great job. Once again, Denise did a wonderful job.
Thanks to our executive director. Denise is very well organized, and it was a good job.
It was very fun, very fun. Next Tuesday, the 14th, I'll be at Chamber speaking about things about the city.
I'm going to miss you.
Oh, that's too
I'm
bad.
sorry.
Yeah, you get to hear me talk all the time anyway, it's fine. So I just confirmed that with Mrs. Miller while we were sitting here. So I will be there at lunch for those of you who would like to come and hear
I'll be out of town.
me talk more. Let's see. So I want to talk about the water rates here. I've asked that the water rate study, sewer rate study, and the stormwater formation report be attached underneath my report this evening. So as you can imagine, water bills just came out. So, and I too was a little struck by how much usage. My bill actually had gone down this time. I was very excited. The $21 it had gone down was a feat to get it down that far. But through conversations, though, during our executive team meetings, I was asking the questions. I brought my bill in and had it reviewed. But I know that there's a lot of folks that have been out there talking about this, and I know that you folks are also getting those phone calls as well. As Mr. Plaza before the meeting had stated, he's got a neighbor who somehow is a high water user for her home, I guess. And I had forgotten the bill structure that we had put in with this new study that came through. And it's a tiered system. So you're rewarded for using, I don't want to say rewarded and punished. You are given leniency by less water usage and paying a lower fee than those who are paying a higher or using more water, pay a higher fee, almost double than the base rate. So with that said, because of that, the high water users are the ones that are using the system and therefore contributing to the overall success and maintenance of it, where those that don't use as much aren't paying as much into the system because they're not using as much. With that said, too, council needs to remember when they're speaking with constituents that water rates were raised slightly this past year, and I put these studies on here. Part of the conversation I had with the exec team was the fact that our infrastructure is aging, and you can see by our workshop this evening, we can talk about that more, some of the comments that were made for the workshop this evening from the port director about our aging infrastructure. And that's one of the things that we struggle with. And not putting the blame or throwing stones at anyone else that's come before us. It's just we haven't done a good job of maintaining what we have, and we keep kicking the can down the road in hopes that somebody else will be able to take care of it. Well, we're to that point now where we have to take care of it. And we talk a lot about expansion and residential units coming in. We also have to keep in mind, too, there's not that many residential units and businesses that are paying into the system, so therefore the heavy lifting is on us that are here. Similar to our transportation issues that we have here in town. The heavy lifting is put on our shoulders to improve those systems, especially Exit 21. You heard Mrs. Round talk about the grant that we're hoping we're going to get from the feds. That's on us. That's not on anyone else. It's in our city. It's our responsibility to work with the state to get that fixed, even though we have a larger community using it beyond what we have here in the city on a daily basis. But it's up to us to maintain that and upgrade it. And same thing with the water system. We have wood pipes. We have some areas in town that have asbestos pipes. We have neglected contracts that have come through due to the fact that we've had businesses or developments that have not come to fruition that had agreements with us to upgrade certain portions of our system. So with that said, if those contracts aren't able to be followed through on, that comes back onto us. And you talked about the lift stations being, those are huge expenses. We're talking $500,000 to $600,000 to rebuild those, and those have to be rebuilt. How often, Mrs. Coleman?
Probably about every 35 years.
Okay, and how many do we have?
12.
12. And
14.
14, and we were behind when you came in. So we're still playing catch up, and during tonight's workshop, I'm hoping that, I know that there's been some thoughts and concerns about the amount of money that the feds gave us, and we're pouring it into that system. Through our discussions, though, I think that it's, and we can talk about it more during the workshop, I think it's going to be in our best interest to take that money and put it in there so future water rates don't have to be raised so dramatically as we have currently. But we are just behind on our projects, and that's just, and if we want to continue operating at a level where people can flush their toilets and turn on their faucets to get clean water, this is just where we have to be, unfortunately. But hopefully we'll get it fixed, and some of the new developments that are going to come in will help lower the cost for everyone across the board and across the system. So not a fun topic, but a necessary one. So change your toilets out. Put in aerators on your faucets. Don't water your lawn so much if you can avoid it, to put those water bills down a little bit for yourself. I myself have turned my sprinkler system off. I'm going to get in trouble with the HOA, but you know what? It's cheaper to pay them than it is to pay the water bill, unfortunately, at this point in time. So
I already filed a complaint.
yeah, perfect. I did as well. on you, Mr. Smith.
Mine is beautifully green.
Questions for me at this time? I'll stop rambling.
Even
Mrs.
though
Brown.
they're high now,
Yes.
we opt to water our garden rather than our yards, so our yard's brown. And our bill was quite high this time also, but when the garden is done, we probably won't water the yards to yet, so will that bill go down?
More than likely, because it's based on cubic, I'm going to get this wrong, cubic yards? Cubic feet of usage.
Okay.
So if you're within a certain threshold of cubic feet, you pay one rate. If you hit the second level, it's almost, it's like $3 and some change?
There's
$4 and change?
I think 3 levels.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the highest level is almost double. It's almost $7 and some change. So the less you can get your water usage down, obviously your bill's not going to be as much. But we discussed that at length during this water rate study over the past, 18 months? Long time, about what the best approach would be. Oh, and the reason why I'm sitting in this chair is because of the staying water bill. I have yet to be able to do anything with it except improve the system and find the deficiencies, and hopefully bring some understanding to the residents here of why we are where we are.
But
Yes.
you got us the rate study to determine that we were not charging enough to maintain the structure. Am I correct?
I would say, well, not me personally, but yes, Ms. Coleman brought that as a project on to look at the deficiencies, what's needed, what are we going to need to grow the city in the future? A water tower, another water reservoir, thank you, is necessary if we want to grow, if we want to bring business, we want to bring more residents into the town. We're going to need more infrastructure, which is built into the water rate study,
Gotcha.
or built into the water rates themselves. So, and all that money, just so we're all clear, this is an enterprise fund. The city doesn't keep any of that money. It goes directly back into the fund to maintain the system that we have here. So I know there's been some comments that have been made that, oh, we'll just raise the water rates, the city needs more money. That's not, we don't keep that money. That goes back into the water and sewer fund, so.
And it does not pay for the pool. that
And it does
doesn't
not pay for the
exist.
pool, that does not exist.
There you go.
It can only be used for water sewer.
Correct. That's correct. Mr. Boyce.
Speaking of budgets.
Oh, yay.
I just wanted to mention that we're in the full budget mode. We'll have the initial report to City Council by the first Monday in October. And please expect to meet weekly, until we hash out and City Council is happy with the numbers in front of them. Yeah, so there will be some changes in the budget this year. Most notably, we annexed into the fire district, so we're going to lose that expense, but we also talked about losing property tax in a similar ratio to the expense. So we'll need to pay particular attention to this budget when we adopt it. So with that, I'll just keep my comments short. Planning Commission meets on the 16th, 7 p.m. in this room, and everything's budget right now.
All right, thank you, Mr. Boyce. Mr. Randolph.
Nothing to report, sir.
Haven't we kept you busy? We kept you very busy, yes. Mrs. Anderson.
No report.
No reports, all right. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Chief Kelly. All right, thank you, Chief. I don't see Chief Jackson on the line. Mr. Goddard.
Mind if I come up here?
Did you just go, oh? Miss Coleman.
And we were rolling.
Oh, we were rolling. Stand by. You want me to time this one?
That's why I like to get up here, because I know she's going to show me up, so. So community development, we're working on the website update, and Melissa has been making sure that we've been making progress on that. We should have a website up for beta testing pretty quick, I believe, here. There was no appeal of the Belmont Loop RV, so the appeal that came to you, we were waiting to find out whether that would be appealed to Cowlitz County Superior Court, and it does not look like it has been filed, so they will work on their final engineering for that. The staff, Melissa, has prepared a draft approval for the Oak Village Apartments. It's in the residential property on the west side of Green Mountain Road up towards our northern boundary there, up Green Mountain Road. So that has been delivered to the applicant so that they may review that and see if there are any issues that we can work out before that goes final. The Clerk 2 advertising is going to be published in the paper tomorrow, and so we will be advertising for a Clerk 2 position. Let's see, the code work for the moratorium is going to go to the Planning Commission 9/16, so they're going to workshop that. I will be on vacation, so again, Melissa will be representing staff and doing the work with the Planning Commission on the 16th. Budgeting, so Community Development's budget is relatively simple. I am not necessarily where I had hoped to be at this point, but generally, I'm trying to get that done before I go on vacation this Friday. There are going to be a couple enhancements that I'm going to be asking for. One is to replace the code enforcement officer position that was cut in 2019. So the budget ended up actually going up when we laid off that position because we were using other staff, and that other staff is a full-time with benefits. And so we could actually use our existing staff, full-time staff, for other work that is not currently being done by replacing that half-time position, which didn't include benefits. So it's actually very an economical way for us to improve our code enforcement position. And the other one is I will be requesting for the clerks, for the Clerk-Treasurer Department, public records request clerk. And so those will be coming before you. And if you have any questions, you can let me know. And then also I've been doing a bunch of work on contracts and trying to track down our IT-related software and that kind of stuff. So that's been a major preoccupation for me for last month. So that's pretty much mostly it. Do you have any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Carter? Your last report indicated a number of hours on public disclosure requests. Where are we with those, and how are you doing?
So I continue to spend maybe about 8 hours a week on public records requests. Some of them are easy. The work that Janice does for our general public records requests for building permits and that kind of stuff, she's very responsive and we get those out quickly. Also, the police department, they get a number of requests for police reports and background checks, and they're really pretty responsive at that. But there are other requests that continue to take a significant amount of time and communication efforts.
Without putting you on the spot, how many do you, the number of requests that are coming in, are they all over the board, or appointed, or multiple individuals, legals? I mean, what's the...
So they range pretty much typical, so I have been keeping track of them, and we've been holding steady with our public records requests for the police department records and background checks. We have got a significant increase in ex-employee public records requests. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I have my report. Do you want a little more detail?
No, that's fine, unless council has some further, or wants further detail on that.
But yes, they're all over the board.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
Can that code enforcement position kind of be a combined position about doing public works requests / code enforcement?
So we are currently using one of our clerks as our code enforcement officer, and so it will free up additional time. There's also part of the reason why I'm talking about clerk-related stuff is because since Mary's retirement, I've been given the title of Deputy Clerk-Treasurer, and so I'm also working with the clerks who are at the front counter doing public service and that kind of stuff. So for the longest time, after Mary left and after Lori left, we've been working with temps. We've had a temp who's Mary Parson, who used to be our code enforcement officer. She has hung in and she has taken a beating and done a lot of work, and I can't express enough how much I appreciate the fact that she stuck with us through that time. We had a temporary who was with the city for a couple weeks, but things didn't work out, and we've since hired a new temp for a few weeks, and she has a finance background, and so she's been excellent. So she's kind of been really quick on the uptake and the training, and we have started to, I sent out actually an email yesterday about additional duties and training in public records requests that the clerks out front will be able to start doing additional research as they get them training and bring themselves up to speed. So it will actually free up existing clerks to do other work that include everything from records maintenance to eliminating the backlog, records destruction, since cleaning out 100 Davidson and the decades of files that are down there. So there'll be a lot of duties that they can get to that they are not currently able to handle.
Quick question.
Mrs. Holland?
So you said you're spending a lot of time on IT-related stuff. So something we heard in our Public Works Committee meeting was, for instance, Ms. Coleman spent 4 hours trying to get the password and login information for a particular program that you guys have, because apparently when somebody left, they didn't share any information. So she got to spend 4 hours of her day. So is that the kind of stuff you're doing? And if so, is this something that we can make sure that whoever is creating whatever, there's like a book somewhere that people can access?
Yeah, so that is a great example and a great question of the examples that we're running into. So we have a public records request requesting a software report called Smarsh and Page Freezer. And I had no idea what they were, and so this request comes in and it requires me to look up the contract, and then you call them, their customer service, and they say, I'm sorry, I can't help you because you're not one of the contracted service contacts, so I can't actually tell you who is on that contract because you might be Adam's uncle and we have no idea whether you're who you say you are. So they can't tell me, but I say, oh, well, is one of those Mary Rip or Lori Cash? They are no longer with the city, and they can say, yes, they were part of the contract, but I still can't tell you who the third person is. So I have to guess, and they'll say, yes, that person is a contact. So unfortunately, Gina gets these random calls from these companies that we have contracts with saying, have you ever heard of Travis Goddard? Is he really who he says he is? And so it takes an hour or two to get them to call Gina, and if Gina's not there or she's on vacation, she might not get back to them for a week or two, and then I have to, so Gina will send the paperwork and I will be added, and then I need to find the time to call them again, and it's this crazy effort to just get a hold of them on the phone saying, okay, I have no idea what you do. Can you explain to me what your product is? How do I run reports? And they're like, oh yeah, we have this self-taught 48-hour training program where you watch these videos and you'll be an expert at the software. And I'm like, a month into it and I've invested 8 hours and I can tell Tracy that she doesn't have a password. And that's about all I know from that 8 hours worth of effort. So it is a giant time suck. And as we're trying to figure it out, I'm trying to include clerks so that there is cross-training and they have an understanding of what's going on. Or thank God for Zoom, because we had a Zoom meeting where I invited like 8 people, from the police chief to police sergeants to the other clerks, and they're watching and they're like, oh my God, that's awesome. Once this is up and running, we have our new website, we'll be able to link this. People won't even need to call and ask. It'll be on the website and they can just look it up themselves. So there's some exciting tech stuff in the future.
If you had time to get to it.
Yes.
I get you. And the reason I asked you is because I've experienced the same thing. And it took like 2 years to get through all kinds of things because, sorry, this person created like Apple software. Made an Apple ID that an organization owns this iPad, but they created it and linked it to themselves. So it effectively is of no use once they leave, so you get to throw it away and waste people's money to buy another one. Those kind of things. So I am familiar, so that's why I suggested if there's like a binder somewhere that everybody can write this stuff down so that if someone dies or is hit by a bus or runs away screaming one day, you have, everybody around them will have access to pick up
Yes.
where they left off.
We are trying to work on that. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
So, as far as records and retention go, it seems like this is something that we've been kicking down the road a long time of trying to go through them. Do we have, like, are we meeting, because you don't want to save records past when they say you don't need them anymore. Is that causing a delay as far as having to search through records that we shouldn't have anymore, or is that?
So no, not necessarily. Janice Fisher, who is the community development clerk, has been working on this project. That's kind of what she was originally brought on board several years ago as the temp who was working on that. And she has really gotten a handle on what needed to be done, what had to be done. She's eliminated a lot of these old expired records, but it's a constant thing. And, you know, I've been on board 3 years now already, and it totally floors me. So stuff that, you know, was nowhere near expired is now expired, and so it's this constant battle, and without help at the front office, so she's busy doing other stuff and she's not necessarily getting to that like she would. But if you come into our office and you look behind community development counter, you'll see there's a bunch of boxes there, and they're partially open, they're on their side, and they're organized. That's because when she gets 20 minutes, she'll make progress, and then she might be busy for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. And so between her and Audrey and the other clerks, they are consistently trying to work through them, but it's a constant battle. It's not necessarily like we have to search through those. It's an extra effort to search through them. A lot of the requests we get are specific properties on the building side, and those records are totally organized, or they're electronic format. And a lot of the other requests are more recent stuff for maybe the last year or two. In general, that stuff is all still relevant, so we have it in our files, in our active files, as opposed to the historical stuff down in 100 Davidson. We rarely have to go down there and do a lot of work.
Okay, so we are getting rid of the files that we should be getting rid of, though?
We are, yep.
Okay.
Mr. Boyce?
I just wanted to mention, too, that during COVID, we did downsize a half-time clerk that was mostly dedicated to document retention and managing those files. So that's, you know, when we talk about bringing on a full-time FTE for document retention, that would be, you know, adding to that current half-time position that we downsized.
And I do need to apologize to Pete because I hadn't talked to him about that. So he's getting as surprised as you are in the heat of the public.
Well,
Sorry about that.
Well, you can see the need. I mean, you know, there's a lot to it, and lately the requests have been way up. So we need to react. We have a responsibility to provide records when people ask for them, and we need to make that happen. It's a struggle with the staffing we have right now.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Goddard. Ms. Coleman,
Yes, sir,
you ready to report?
I am.
All right, fire away.
So I only have to report one thing, and that is, if you look in your packet, there is a document that is going for approval, well, not approval, just to make you aware of it tonight, council members. It's called the final packet at 300 East Scott Avenue lease. And I just wanted to let you know what that was, and in case you had any questions, you can bring them forward to me. So we have a citywide broadband upgrade that's going on right now, and Ziply Fiber is doing that upgrade. They have a subcontractor called Nelson Boring, who has asked around town. As you know, when you, I don't know if you're familiar, but when you do boring projects, or you do a citywide project, there's a lot of materials and construction equipment that you have on site Mooring equipment is large and expensive to move and haul, and so they were looking for a place to stage that material and some of the equipment. They asked some various individual business owners around town and were unable to find a place to stage it, so they wouldn't have to move from Longview or Vancouver daily in and out, which is very expensive. So they reached out to Public Works, one of our Public Works crew members, and asked if there was a place that we could stage that. And that Public Works crew member gave them my name, and so I talked to them and I asked them what they needed. And they just needed an empty lot to put some stuff. So I thought, we had just moved out of our 200 Davidson, or not Davidson, sorry about that, West Scott Avenue, right here, a couple doors down. And I believe that that is a good enough spot for them to store that. Thank you. East Scott, thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, we're on this side.
Thank you. Okay, got it, thanks. So with that being said, a couple doors down, that way. I told them that there was a possibility they could stage it behind the old Public Works building. And so with that being said, I talked to our planning director and our city attorney to see if there would be any complications in me moving forward in offering them that property. And based on the zoning and based on MRSC and the rules and regulations that are allowed through us, there are no complications in that. So I moved forward in a lease agreement with them. And that is to lease out that building and the actual, it was just the parking lot at first, but then after they saw the parking lot was available and they said, what about that building? I said, well, I could look at that as well. And we looked at that second. Long and the short, we have it leased out at about $2,000 a month. So that will be going into the road maintenance fund, our miscellaneous revenue coming in. So we can use that to add additional sidewalks around town, which I already have a slotted area for some sidewalks to go in on along Atlantic. We could use it for matching grant funds. We can use it for improving facilities that we have. So I asked the mayor if he would like to move forward in signing a lease agreement and our city administrator, and they agreed that it was a good call, and so we went ahead and moved forward and processed that. So I wanted to make all the council members aware of that, and that we went ahead and moved forward with that. And it's a month-to-month. There's no partial payments at any given month, so if they're in there one day, we get the full $2,000. If we need that building, like the fire department needs it to tear it down because they're going to expend the fire station, we just let them know, you need to be out within 30 days. So, and it's totally beneficial to the city as far as income and being able to have them out at any time. We don't have to repair or replace anything. If the HVAC goes down, we don't have to replace it. They're maintaining the building, they're maintaining the structure as far as the cleaning goes, they're doing the garbage, so just an additional revenue for the city. If anybody has any questions on that?
So this is just for Ziply Fiber, for the fiber that's being installed?
Yeah, Ziply Fiber it's a utility, public utility, and so that's the reason why we did it. It's only for Ziply Fiber only.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the one thing I've noticed is over in my neighborhood, it looks like they're boring and tearing into some people's yards just a little bit there.
Uh-huh.
And it sounded like after we talked at the committee meeting there, that if they do tear into your yard there, they will be putting it back to the way it was.
If not better.
If not better.
Yeah, so if there's anybody who has any complaints, go ahead and call over to Public Works, and we'll make sure that they get on that and put their yard in the same condition, if not better, of when they have it.
Okay.
The only other question on the floor for Ms. Coleman this evening is the community center. When can we get that open?
Oh, that would be a question for Mr. Goddard, because I did my part on that.
Oh, okay. Mr. Goddard, you're off the hook, Ms. Coleman.
So that is.
Yes.
I didn't know you were driving the bus.
Mr. Goddard.
So the city website needs to be updated because there are several forms that need to have some language changes on them.
Okay.
And those are some of the issues that we have not been able to get to because of our current clerk kind of needing the help. So it's on the list. We're hoping to get it done as soon as possible.
Tuesday. Or what?
Which one?
Are those things that they could actually, like, since City Hall's open, we're still open, right?
Yes.
Is that something that if somebody wanted to rent the building, they would just have to come in to get the forms?
So we are not currently renting the building because we don't have updated forms that include COVID language, including cleaning and safety issues.
Gotcha.
Once that is updated, we also do not necessarily have trained clerks who have gone through the exercise of how to rent the city's facilities. So once we have the forms updated, we'll be going through some dry runs, making sure that that is clear, and our website has a schedule for people to go out and see whether facilities are available. We haven't quite figured out how to update that calendar. So there are some technical issues that, as I mentioned before, we're still trying to deal with. So, because it's a Google Calendar, it is not a Outlook calendar. So we're trying to figure out who has the right to get into that Google Calendar and update it. So.
Oh, come on, it's only somebody, not the city.
And with the new website coming on board, we're hoping this might be a moot issue because the new website might actually have a more efficient way of reserving facilities and using calendars. So it's a race to see what will be more effective.
Ms. Coleman?
We do have the language and everything that has been provided. The key that I wanted to state is that in order to get that document into Seamless, then to have that into the website, that's where the problem lies, is the internet that we currently have is old, and we've shared that, well, we haven't, but the past Clerk-Treasurer and another city staff had shared that it's broken and we need to replace it. We finally do have now a new web service that we're working on. But trying to get those documents uploaded, and they put everything in Seamless now. It used to be paper. Here's a paper document. You know, you could update the document, come and fill it out and go. And now everything is done via the web, and so that's the difficulty that we're running into. So unfortunately, that's the way they have it set up to be able to do online rentals, but I'm not sure of a solution at this time, being that that's the way it was set up. It would be nice to be able to take a paper and put it in a calendar, but I'm not sure if we're able to do that.
So if you need somebody to practice with, let me know.
Yeah, it would be nice to just.
I would like to have a paper, I would like just to have a piece of paper.
Yeah. Well,
tell us what we need to do and let us do it, and then let us fill out the
and maybe
later.
That's what we do, is we put a PDF document and they send in the paper application like we do in the past, and maybe move forward that way.
Well, you have to, like with a PDF, you just upload it into like DocuHub, and then you can just fill in the links and sign it. Save it in your Google Drive and reattach it to an email. I can give lessons if anybody needs help attaching a PDF, so.
Yeah, it's not that, it's the way it's put into our website. So unfortunately,
Yeah, and we're dealing with, we're getting PDFs of forms that I've never even seen before, and so we're trying to figure out, okay, where did this form come from? What do we do with it? You know, it's, so dealing with the half paper, half electronic, and the website that is in the transition, so we're trying to deal with that as best we can at this point.
Mr. Plaza?
Okay, just make sure that I'm tracking right. So the only reason really that we're not renting out the thing is because we need to change this language on the form. Is that right?
And I don't believe there are any written procedures for how to negotiate what needs to be done and the steps it takes to do the reservation.
Right. Now, is there some kind of directive or, since it's the big word these days, mandate coming down from the Duke of Olympia saying that we have to change the forms?
I thought part of it was,
Well, it's mostly because of our insurance carrier. So if we're...
It's for liability reasons.
Exactly. So if we're
Okay.
renting out a facility, we need to make sure there are...
That people
COVID
know
safety
that there's COVID
protocols
out
in
there?
place And cleaning standards.
Okay. How much is that going to cost us?
It didn't cost us anything,
Time.
just the time.
Okay.
And again, it's the, so everything was shut down due to COVID, no rentals were done.
Right.
Now trying to figure out how to open that back up so people can actually fill out the application and changing the applications out, and the website is where we're stuck with, because there was nobody that we can find that was trained that knew how to do that, and the ones that are doing it are struggling with the old website to get that up and going.
Okay.
And you can correct me if I'm
And
wrong.
this is the perfect example of the kind of symptom we have. You know, we have major staff turnover right now, and we've got people stepping up to do things they haven't ever done before. And they still have a full-time job behind those items. So, you know, we're doing our best, but everything is taking longer than it usually does.
I know you guys are doing your best, and I know you're trying. I know that I've read multiple comments online about wanting to rent it. If there is any way to try to do it a paper version, I think people would be wanting that, just to try to get it going and move it forward faster. But I know you guys are trying, and you guys are doing a great job. So, not to add more on, but
That's probably the best route to go. Travis and I have talked about that temporarily until maybe we get that new website up, is figure out a different program and a different calendar that we use that is all manual entry, which takes more time, right? So, because you have different departments that are being called, so someone's going to have to get up and go look. But, I mean, it's something that definitely can be done, and we'll work on getting that done.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Come to the portion for consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Plaza, seconded by Councilmember, oh, sorry. Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Plaza. Ms. Anderson?
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
All right, consent items have passed. Moving on to action item D, adopt an ordinance number 1490 regarding business licenses. First reading.
Move to approve action item D, adopt ordinance 1490 regarding business licenses. First reading.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilmember Plaza, second by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Plaza.
No comment.
Councilmember Rounds.
No comment.
Further discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Anderson, you take the roll on action item D, ordinance number 1490, first reading.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Action item D has passed. Moving on to action item E, adopt ordinance number 1491. Findings of fact for ordinance 1486 regarding a moratorium on the acceptance of processing of applications for permits for the development and expansion of residential uses within the commercial zoning districts. Final reading.
Motion to adopt ordinance 1491.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, second by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Smith.
We've talked about this, I think, a couple times now. I think it's needed for a little while.
Councilmember Rounds.
Agreed.
Further discussion? Seeing nothing further, action item E, ordinance number 1491. Mrs. Anderson?
Councilmember Plaza.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Graham.
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
The motion has passed. Moving on to action item F, authorize mayor to sign contract with the lowest bidder, Clark County Paving, for the 2021 asphalt repair projects.
Motion to approve mayor signing contract with Clark County Paving for 2021 asphalt repair projects.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, second by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Smith.
It sounds like this is lower cost than it was last year, and we could always use more repairs.
Councilmember Rounds.
Agreed.
Moving on, or further discussion, sorry. It's not with it tonight. Seeing none, action item F, sign contract with lowest bidder Clark County Paving for 2021 asphalt repair projects. Mrs. Anderson?
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Action item F has passed. Moving on to action item G, authorize mayor to sign request for fee increase to contract amendment number 5 with Gray and Osborne for construction management services for Scott Hill Booster Station.
Motion to approve, mayor to sign request for fee increase to amendment number 5 with Gray and Osborne.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Smith, second by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Smith.
Sounds like this is still under budget and is needing to be done.
Councilmember Rounds.
Yes, we talked about this in our meeting today, so it does need to be done.
Further discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Anderson, action item G, amendments number 5 with Gray and Osborne.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
The motion is passed. Moving on to action item H, council to approve adoption of the water system plan's water use efficiency goals.
Move to approve action item H, approve adoption of the water systems plans, water use efficiency goals.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Plaza, second by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Plaza.
If I remember right when I read this, it sounds like it's something that is pretty much just a regular update, and it doesn't cost the city any money, and it doesn't raise anybody's bills or taxes, so let's do it.
Councilmember Rounds.
Agreed.
Further discussion? Seeing none, action item H, approve adoption of the water system plan's water use efficiency goals. Mrs. Anderson.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
The motion is passed. Moving on to action item I.
Before we move on, a question for you.
Fire
Do we
away.
need to read this from Jennifer Ray Keene? Sounds like this was, she was talking about action item H. Did we need to read her? public
No,
comments
it
on
was
this?
given to you for consideration.
Okay.
We received that this evening at 4 p.m.
Okay. And it was considered?
Okay. And everyone should have a copy. Action item I, council approval and adoption of water system plan.
Make motion to approve adoption of water system plan.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Rounds, seconded by Councilmember Holland. Councilmember Rounds.
No comment.
Councilmember Holland.
The last update was 2012, so sounds like a good idea.
Further discussion? Councilmember Plaza.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, this also doesn't cost any money. So-
Thank you.
Ms. Coleman.
I'd like to clarify that by adoption of the water system plan, that it allows me to go out for grant dollars, which gives the city money if we get the grant dollars. So we have to have an approved water system plan, and it's renewed every 4-5 years. And so, yeah, so that's why I'm pushing it through, so I can go out for a grant this fall.
I know I'm not supposed to speak during this moment, but just a follow-up question, and this is in regards to our water rate study that took all of this information into account, correct? Like, this is all like multiple documents that drive us forward.
That's 100% correct.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Anderson, council approval and adoption of the water system plan.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
The motion has passed. The time is now 8:04. We will take a 6-minute break before going into workshop.
6 minutes.
6 minutes, Plaza.
Why are you singling me out?
I don't know.
You stood up first.
Oh, jeez.
Ben's not here.
Well, I heard Smith say thank you.
Oh,
That's the IR. They passed mine already. You've been paying attention. You passed that one already?
Yes.
Finding facts.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
We're giving your day of service.
October, they always do cleanup day in Woodland.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I was talking about.
We don't have any.
Where would I find information to get involved in that?
Public Works.
Okay.
Dennis Rip usually heads that, and he works for Public Works. And so, stop in the city or get in touch with Dennis, he'd be more than glad, because we're looking for volunteers.
Okay, so it's something that like, for instance, like,
Yes.
get directed on what
Yes.
to do.
Yes.
Sure.
And, you know, they do the lilac gardens, they do some places, some elderly people's homes. They do all kinds of things that day, so it's a nice day. Burgerville, I think, provides, hamburgers afterwards, and so, you know, it's a community project, it's a good thing.
Thank you. You said Dennis Rich?
Dennis Rep, yes. Mrs. Coleman can direct you where to, you know, volunteer.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
I know. One of the lake management groups.
Oh, it might be because when we did that, we had it in a lake report, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So that was my first day here.
Yeah.
Good.
So I have a
Chugging
lot
right
of.
along. How about you?
Oh, that's me.
Oh, good.
Anyway, so
Drains
I
and
just thought I'd
personnel,
ask,
right?
since
Yeah,
I
I know.
just had that
Trying to get enough
conversation
bodies to cover the dues.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to check.
Mayor,
Yes.
did you mind?
Yeah,
Did you mind
yeah, you know,
signing
I
that
just,
contract?
It might be in my folder.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
all the
Mrs.
record
Coleman?
tax is set up so that you can abuse.
This
people.
gentleman would like to know who to contact to volunteer for Make a Difference Day.
Oh, Public Works.
Okay,
I'll give you our phone number.
cool, thank you.
Yeah. Did we talk about that today? Yeah.
I did talk about it, yes.
I don't have it.
Huge. And
I don't have it. I have to go to Shelton in the morning.
I will be back in town.
still better to have her outside than in there.
And there's also the day of caring that United.
I will stop by
Do they do that?
Yeah, so it's,
Yeah,
yeah.
Pete will have it.
One year,
Okay.
I
What do I have?
think,
The contract
Mayor
for
helped paint
the
a
rental,
room
or the lease.
You're welcome. No problem.
on that day. United Way organizes.
No, that was big, that
Oh, yeah.
that was still Make a Difference Day, yeah.
They mostly get them up in Longview, and we can go up there and do.
Was it?
I always,
2 minutes.
She said, it's Make a Difference Day.
You know, I really don't know the specifics on it.
They sent up a.
That was the
Something
one that I
like that.
sent to the mayor and said, hey, I need to sign by tomorrow.
If they can.
Would you be able to print that out in your office tomorrow? Or usually we say, you know, it's not.
Gifts,
Oh, yeah.
like for the Lusca Foundation, 'cause that's
I can actually forward it
when it's
on my phone.
But now we have to know that.
I can do it. I'll find it. I'll find it.
Then I think somewhere along the line they get matching phones.
Thank you.
Monetary or,
Yeah,
Several, I think.
and that's on the 23rd?
23rd, yeah.
You just go there between 5 to 7, cut them a check basically, or like an advance?
Put all that in.
Yeah, you just come in and select whatever you want or give them money and I think that's what it is.
Right.
She put everything down, so that now, when it.
I want to say, I think they get matching funds.
Oh
for a
my
certain
God.
amount of money.
All that
Show
stuff.
that to me. Can you show
And then I
me?
noticed one of the trees, she leaned it back.
Oh, you need to show Jim too. You've got 1 minute. Holy
Now
Toledo.
one's like walled down like that, so now she's gonna have to change that. But it looks so much better than it did
good.
Wow.
before.
Wow.
I remember minutes ago when they did that. Then somebody did like a whole. So I saw how they went about it.
That was just tonight, so, yeah.
Yeah,
It's easier to maintain it
and to let it get
Yeah.
in disrepair and have to
and then start
go back.
over.
So let me know if I'm doing it wrong.
What's
Let me know if I'm doing the job wrong.
Right?
You beat me to start.
Where AA used to be. It's across from that.
That's wild.
It was
Okay.
a machine shop before, and I just
Pass that down to Frank.
going to be moving back into that building. Oh, what?
Yeah.
I just signed one of these for Travis.
Yes, I was going to ask Travis.
Yeah.
So he's running the song.
So run it by Maria
All right, the time is now 8:10, and we are back in session and going into a workshop regarding American Rescue Plan funds. This is something that we've discussed and told you that would be coming, and after much deliberation with the executive team on how to proceed with this, the City of Woodland has been allocated a little over $1.8 million through the American Rescue Plan. And we've currently received half of that, which is just a little over 906,000. And the other portion that will come back, or will come into the city next year. I hate to use the term free money. It's not free money because these are taxpayer dollars coming from the federal government. But for the City of Woodland purposes, this is money that was not budgeted, but we have an opportunity, as discussed earlier in the meeting, to get caught up on some things and not have to pull money from our current allocations or reserve accounts for necessary items. So we've made a list through consultation with the executive team. I came up with the list and wanted to present that to you in this workshop today, and then hopefully take some action so we can get started spending some of the 906 that has already come into the city. I know Ms. Coleman could use some of that if approved this evening. So a couple of things that we put on there is utility relief assistance, and we did have one community member here provide some comments, and I would like to address some of those comments during the workshop this evening. So utility relief assistance plan, and that's for folks that are behind on the utility bills due to COVID, and folks who are on unemployment or are behind on paying their utility, and this is a way for us to help them out with these dollars. And again, all those dollars would go back into the system and help out the citizen that's in need. It would also, Mr. Boyce, the City Hall ventilation system, does that include the building next door as well? The two systems, okay. So as council knows, we're in process of negotiating the purchase of the building next door to City Hall, which is considered the Spruce building there on the corner, the old veterinary clinic. Because of ventilation system, as we've talked about it multiple times over the last few years in our current location, and the fact that we're not making plans to move now and no longer a temporary spot, this will become a corner for City Hall and a permanent location. We would need to update the ventilation system not only in our current spot but in that new building if purchased. So we've allocated $100,000 for that. And then also, one thing that I put on here and I wanted to kind of discuss with council, and again, this is just a recommendation, and you by no means have to take it, but throughout COVID, there's been a lot of employers that have given incentive pay, hazard pay, additional dollars for working and staying on instead of leaving and staying home, whatever it may be. Community not agreeing with it, and we should be putting these dollars back into the water sewer system, or we should be doing something else with these dollars. But I have been asked by some employees in the city over the course of the last few years, and we've been asked to do different scheduling, such as other cities have done. We've asked for hazard pay. We've asked for all these number of things. to continue working and doing the wonderful job that we do. So I did allocate $1,250 per employee, which there's 33 employees, which is just under $42,000. Now, again, this isn't a have-to list, but it is an opportunity to have that discussion just because it is something that's been thrown around behind the scenes with some employees. And there are other jurisdictions across the country. I believe Texas was giving out money to some folks through these same dollars. So it's just an opportunity to talk about that and see if that's something that you want to do. And the biggest majority of the money would go back into the water and sewer system. Again, we have wood pipes. We currently, Ms. Coleman can speak to this project, has brought in over $1 million in grant funding for West Scott Avenue. And there is an asbestos water pipe that needs to be replaced that is not part of that. And how much is that going to?
So we brought in $3 million.
Oh, sorry, $3 million.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
over $1 million, three
Okay.
times. And $500,000 for the Davidson water line crossing.
Yes.
And the asbestos water line will be replaced from Pacific Avenue to the railroad tracks. That's about an $800,000 project.
So, and that's money that we were not planning on spending.
That's 100% correct.
And those dollars, and you can stop me when I'm talking here if I'm incorrect, but those dollars, if this funding mechanism had come into the city, those dollars would have to come out of the water sewer.
Correct.
Which in turn would increase rates down the road because we no longer have the $800,000 for another project that has been scheduled to be done.
Yeah, so the way it works is we received the $3 million in grants to go from Sherman Avenue to Pacific and cross the railroad tracks, meet its tracks, okay? So we received 1.5 on one section, 1.5 on the other section. In the one section, we have an old asbestos water line. And so we're doing a full depth reclamation for the road. So what that means is we're going through, we're tearing out all the subgrade, we're putting in a brand new road. Beautiful road. The last thing you want to do is have an old pipe in that road. So then that pipe fails, and then now you have to go in and tear up that road that you just received $1.5 million for. So you want to do it when you're doing that road upgrade. You want to replace those lines if needed. If you need to put a sewer line in or whatever, you want to do it at that time. So when we received this grant, which, you go out for grants and you just hope and pray that you get the money, and we received it, we were like, okay, now we have to deal with this asbestos water line. That was never in the capital improvement plan because it wasn't failing at this time to be able to upgrade that specific line. There's dollars in our capital improvement plan for regular pipe upgrades, with the 40 miles of pipes that we have, but not a specific pipe section. So when we come across projects that we have, $1.5 million for, you want to make sure you cover all your bases and make sure that you get all the infrastructure in so that pipe doesn't fail and you've done the best to keep from cutting into that road in the future. If you think of Sherman Way, how nice that road is, you don't want to cut in that. You want to have a nice new road. Old Pacific Highway, we had to cut in it once. That road's 5 years old, this road right out here, 5 years old, but we had to cut into it when we did our sewer connection and our water line connection. That should have been done ahead of time. So those are things that you want to think about so you don't cut into your roads because your roads degrade and they deteriorate faster and then you have road cuts, so on and so forth. So that's the reason why we're moving forward and replacing that.
So with that said, and some of these dollars were encouraged by the federal government to put into the water system, upgrades and maintenance and those types of things. I do want to touch on a couple of things here that were given to us this evening through Ms. Keene. Approximately $186,000 of outstanding past due bills, and we've only put $100,000. I think that that's a misquoted number. I think that was a dollar fit. Well, who can speak to that? $186,000.
So I don't think it's a misstated number, but when you drill down into the details, we're looking to help with utility assistance to those folks that are affected by COVID. And part of that number is a large chunk that's devoted to one property that was an issue before COVID. So we think $100,000 is a pretty good ballpark over the 2-year period where we can look at expending these dollars.
Okay. Something else that was put in here was the Woodland Action Center. We didn't dedicate any funding to them, but I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I did ask, and you said that you guys were fine right now, but now is your opportunity to advocate if needed. On the record.
I will switch my hat.
Yes, please.
I will switch my hat. To be perfectly honest, the Woodland Action Center it doesn't necessarily need money to offset the impact of COVID. There are things that that the Woodland Action Center applied for through other agencies where the money could be used for utilities, transportation, and stuff like that. And that was disseminated to clients as needed, because like, for instance, the CAT bus stopped running during a big chunk of time. And so folks who had appointments in other places that rely on that transportation method to get to their doctor's appointments or whatever, so that grant money was used to give them gas cards so that they could travel to other places
Gotcha.
that they could normally afford. Because the CAT bus is $2 each direction. So those kind of things. So a lot of these funding things that are out there where this is to offset the impact of COVID, the Woodland Action Center wasn't really impacted by COVID.
Okay.
You can't mitigate that because literally every agency in the free world was throwing food at us, like food we didn't ask for. So it's not like we could buy food, we only have so big of a building to store it.
Right.
So
I would just like to commend Mrs. Holland for saying that they didn't need money due to the COVID, because you have a lot of greedy people out there that, you do, and that anytime you mention anything free, they're going to grab it, So I would like to commend you for that statement. So.
Mr. Smith.
So I know last time there was money put aside for utility relief that it didn't seem like was used.
Well,
By not by a fault of the city. It just seems like they reached out and nobody used it. Is there a way the Woodland Action could use it and be able to make sure it goes to somebody who can help? Because it doesn't seem like the city was able to get it out to people.
So that would be we could. I mean, the organization as a whole disseminates information or disseminates money from the city's document reporting fees for people's housing needs, right? To help people not be evicted and stuff like that. And that's just a normal thing that's been around for over a decade. But in that particular instance, as long as somebody could have it structured how council would want it reported and what would make sense for the Clerk-Treasurer's office. I'm sure that the treasurer, I'd have to have her have a conversation with Mr. Boyce on what would make sense. But it's that would work. We did it with United Way dollars, I think, COVID dollars that they were given, and I think we used it for Kellett's PUD and some of the city ones. Because what people do is when they have a city bill, like their utility bill, they'll just bring it in and they'll log in together. So like our treasurer will log in with them and then pay it online for them. So the Clerk-Treasurer's office probably sends receipts to treasurer at Woodland Action often, but it would make more sense to have a nonprofit. It doesn't have to be Woodland Action. It could be you could give it to United Way if it made everybody feel better, but to disseminate it to Woodland people. But I think people would, from my perspective, I would think people might feel more comfortable asking at Woodland Action, hey, can you help me pay this bill because I'm overdue, rather than go in and have that uncomfortable conversation with somebody they maybe don't know. Or That's just my experience. So our treasurer will talk to landlords and utility companies and all kinds of stuff on behalf of people, and it's been working. It's just to kind of offset that. We're a small town, and it's kind of humiliating to have people know your business.
Yeah.
And so I think in that regard, it would make more sense than to have a clerk treasurer call and say, yo, I hear you haven't paid your bill. Can we help you?
Yeah, because that's what it seemed like last time, is they made phone calls and people were just denying help.
Where they'll say, can you...
It was a compressed timeline, too.
Yeah, and they'll say, give it to somebody who really needs it. We
Yeah.
have that with clients, like clients have been getting, who are getting extra food stamps because of that federal thing, so they won't even come to the center on Saturdays because they're like, no, give that food to somebody who needs it more than me.
And I think there was one public comment on there about just paying past due bills on the comment we had there. And it sounds great on paper, but I feel like you announced that you're just going to pay past due bills, and people in the city are going to be like, well, no point in paying that bill, they're going to pay it. So, I mean, like you said, greed is going to take over, and you're going to have people who are going to take advantage of a situation if they can. So it'd be nice if we could get the resources out to actually help people versus having it sit in a fund and then nobody use it.
And would it be just city utilities, or would it also be PUD utilities? Because that's one that, they have the Warm Neighbors Fund?
Yeah, so that would be up to council. It could
Okay.
be used for PUD also.
Okay, because that's one that Fish of Cowlitz County, they help people with those kind of things. And then they have the Warm Neighbors Fund up there, but what happens is you have to make an appointment, and you're only you have that one moment, and if the money's gone, it's gone. And so you may have counted on that because that's your one last hope to keep your lights on. I don't know whether or not, aren't they under the same thing, the Cowlitz PUD of not shutting people's electricity off?
Yeah.
Right, during COVID.
in Cascade. But I think they all received money as well. I know Cascade Natural did, and they did a program, and I don't know, Mr. Bush can speak to that too, where if there's a certain demographic or neighborhood based on the...
Yeah, and actually, that was for a different category than we are.
Okay.
So I did state that at previous meetings.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's for direct payments from the Treasury to the city, bigger cities like Longview, for instance.
Okay.
But we're smaller, we're going through the state.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
We're not held to that.
So, if we have $100,000 for utility relief assistance, how are you guys choosing who gets that?
Well, we still have to put together the program details, but essentially the money can be used for utility relief from someone who's been impacted by COVID-19. So they'd have to show somehow that they've been affected, either they lost a job or they've been ill, something of that nature.
Okay.
And, the way we did it last time was, first come, first serve, as long as you met that criteria.
Okay. Then what, I'm just throwing this out here, so don't read too much into it. What's stopping the city in situations like that from just saying, okay, this month's bill is good to go, and just waiving it?
Well, the city can't waive a bill. We can waive late fees, but we can't waive the service fee.
Okay. All right, because probably would be blasted for this, for being a jerk, but kind of bouncing off of what Councilmember Smith said is, I really have a hard time having the government pick winners and choosers. And maybe you're not picking them because people have to apply for them, they have to meet certain criteria. But at the same time, is it this government's role to say, okay, here's some money, take it, oh, well, never mind, give it back to us because you're paying our bill. So people are going to say, this is just a shady way that the city's getting money in their pocket. And personally, I think that this money, if it has to be directed towards people that are working through COVID, affected by COVID or whatever, would be a lot more, at least portion of this money, not even half probably, would be a lot more effective going towards, for example, our police department has a state mandate that they, because of the new things coming down from Olympia, that they've got to start wearing body cams, right? That's going to cost the city $45,000 or however, I don't remember exactly how long. Personally, I think this money would be better off, at least a portion of this $100,000 would be better off funding that than people who may, as Mr. Smith pointed out, just say, well, the city's got $100,000, so why should I pay my bill this month? The government will take care of it. At least this way we know it's being put towards something productive. So that's just my 2 cents.
But they do have to prove that they need the money.
They can show that, okay, I lost my job February last year. I mean, how much follow-up is going to be done to show that they didn't get fired because they're a jerk?
So basically, what we had them do last time, which was what we would have them do this time, is when they sign that application, they're attesting to the fact that they've been impacted by COVID. The city's not going to, go out there and call employers and things like that. But if we're ever audited, that person may have to come in and provide proof at that time to show that they did meet that criteria. And if they didn't, they could be asked to repay that themselves.
So, what is a monthly billing like for utilities? What's a monetary amount for a random bi-monthly billing? I don't remember off the top of my head what you guys said you bill, like.
Where are you asking, my house or somebody else's house?
I'm looking at Mr. Boyce and
You want to tell your house?
Mrs. Anderson.
Yeah. So my average right now is almost 700. Janice?
So
280.
280, so
Right.
maybe in the middle.
So over however many people, so let's say you have one billing cycle is like 80K or whatever. So let's say it's $80,000 and that's residential, we're not talking businesses. So whatever that grand amount. So back to me where I'm going to whip that hat around again. So from a nonprofit standpoint, that amount of money is huge. Like, that could go a long, long way. 100K on utilities, like, that's a lot. You see what goes out in housing. That gets stretched as far as it can possibly get stretched, And so, like when I said, I want to qualify, I guess, or reiterate my rewind like Willy Wonka. When I said the Woodland Action Center was not impacted, my statement was meant we stayed open. We were not closed. 4 of us were there every Saturday and a handful of helpers to make that happen. People came in during the week. So we were not impacted in that way like other places were. And very generous Woodlanders donated their stimulus checks because they said, hey, I don't need this, I'm working. And so they donated it. And so those are the things when our thrift store was closed through all those months, and that's the thing that pays, almost 100% of our bills sometimes because they're amazing at what they do. When it was closed for months and months, those type of donations offset that damage from COVID. So, but yeah, so like in the nonprofit world, legit, you could beat that 100,000 for years. Like literally, how long do you have to get rid of it?
Until the end of 2024.
Oh, hey, there you go. That's an amazing time frame. because to try and get rid of it that quick, it would be nut. My concern is with the moratorium on evictions being lifted and with the unemployment stuff stopping. Food stamp, the extra food stamps people are getting is going to stay the same. They just came down with that yesterday, today, something, that's going to be staying. We are seeing an increase in new faces already. And so, but in the food bank world, what's interesting is that the Washington State Department of Agriculture says that you are not allowed to have service areas anymore. So we've always kept it to Kalama, Amboy, like this chunk, because we are the only place for a lot of people. And so the U.S. Department, or the Washington State Department of Agriculture has said we are not allowed to have a service area. So if 100 people decide to carpool from Portland because they heard we have good snacks, we are not allowed to say no to them. So we don't know what that's going to look like for Woodland Action, like with people being able to be evicted, or losing their unemployment, whatever. So I mean, just from that standpoint, we are seeing new faces from outside the area that are landing here. We're working on helping them along to other areas that actually have services available. But just so that people keep that part in mind, that I think it's going to look different. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but as it starts to happen, we'll kind of determine, because we've kept really close contact with our regular clients about their rent issues and stuff like that, to make sure that no Woodlanders, I know I talk with my hands, I'm sorry, but so that no Woodlanders would end up in that lump of, I couldn't pay my rent for a year and now I'm going to be homeless. So we were really good about trying to keep every Woodlander we could with that housing money, keep them housed, because that's its intent, is to keep them housed. And so, but I just find that interesting that the Washington State Department of Agriculture said we can't have service areas. We have to give food to whoever comes in the door, and we're not allowed to ask questions. But Woodland Action is in 2 counties, and we still have to report to 2 counties where people came from, so they know, but we're not allowed to ask where they came from. So that's government, and I just kind of have a chuckle over that. But that's the newest thing in the last month or 2. That's the new one, because they said if you ask where somebody came from, it creates a barrier to food, and we don't want to create a barrier to food. And keep in mind, the Washington State Department of Agriculture, they partner, and Food Lifeline and places like that, partner with farmers in Washington to buy up things that grocery stores won't. So the ugly carrot that has 2 legs, those come to us. Those are that's all part of a big program so that it gets to people. And grocery stores don't like to see brown spots on a banana, so those come to Woodland Action and other agencies. So the Department of Agriculture here does things like that, because most people don't understand how that agency even works. But since we're a farm community, I thought I'd throw that out there. And so I'm going to shut up now, because I could go for days on stuff like this.
So it sounds like, Mr. Smith, go ahead.
So I'm trying to take all that in. And I guess, is there a way that the City of Woodland can set up the parameters and Woodland Action applies on behalf of somebody? Is that a possibility?
Yes.
That is exactly what United Way is doing now. They set aside a fund, but a nonprofit has to apply on that person's behalf, and it's a housing fund, I believe.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't mind. I could ask our person so that their form could be sent.
So for housing, utilities, is that an option for us to have them be able to apply on behalf?
It can be, yeah.
Okay.
I think it would be important to keep the dollars local to make sure that they,
agree.
I mean, I'm not, nothing against United Way, but I would prefer to see a local organization have
that's
the
why
money to help Woodland.
And that's why I say if the city keeps it, then at that point it stays, that's the
Right, but
checkbox.
that's a fund that they just released, and people from Woodland, because there isn't a funding mechanism for people outside of city limits for housing. So if somebody's outside of Woodland city limits, they can come to us. We can apply on their behalf to have rent paid for them, so.
Now, are you allowed to ask them where they live at that point?
Housing, yes, food, no. So it just depends on where the stuff comes from determines what the rules are. And those rules change almost weekly.
Of course, because it's the state.
It's government.
So would that be a better way in the long run then, to set it up that way?
I mean, yeah, and then that way the city would be the person,
Building out funds.
right,
Yes.
or crediting. How would that work for you? You said you can't waive something, but.
No, we can't forgive a service fee, but if we allocated dollars for this purpose and you told us someone is eligible, we could then basically, the general fund where the COVID dollars are sitting could pay the enterprise funds to pay off that bill and then show credit on the bill.
Gotcha.
Okay.
That would make sense. And how soon do you need an answer on some of this stuff?
That was my question.
Depends what's passed this evening.
Okay, because that's something.
I'm sure that the office would be in touch saying, hey, we've
Right.
got this and these other parameters, because we still have to set the parameters. So I would encourage that be part of the motion this evening, if that's the way council wants to choose to go, is how to, yes, Mr. Plaza?
I'm going to be a jerk again,
Okay.
because I'm just going to play devil's advocate, and that's what I'm normally good at, is being jerky. But if there's that many charitable organizations that are built to help, and that's their function, how is it the city's role to be a charity organization by handing out money to people to pay their bills?
Is that not interesting that the government wants you to do this? Because, and do you know why, and I speak from this background, is that I think it makes them feel better about other decisions that they make. That's what I think. It's a buyout, and God help me, because this will really, I shouldn't even say this in public, but that's my opinion, because that's money that should already be allocated to, there's already programs in place on a state level. There's different organizations that handle this stuff. So by doing this, they are trying to make each municipality, here's what you can do with this money, go be a nonprofit. And if there weren't so many, I mean, there's literally a gajillion different nonprofits helping people for different things, just like that. And it makes no sense because they do not have a system in place, whereas nonprofit agencies already have a system in place and a process and procedure to handle all of this and document it and make sure, because when you get grants, like Ms. Coleman will tell you, you have to then report what you did with somebody's money, right? Same thing with a nonprofit. If the city gives the Woodland Action money, there's a laundry list of, this is what every quarter that our treasurer has to give, because that's what a council determined was the best way
Can I
to
say
create
something?
transparency.
I would like to say something jerky as well.
I'm going to take over your meeting.
Not that I'm trying to be jerky, but it almost sounds as if this is an opportunity to make you individuals feel good about getting all this money, spending it somewhere else, and just here's a small portion to make me feel good about spending money. That's what it seems like.
Right, because it could have been given already from wherever, because this money came from somewhere.
Right.
It didn't just magically appear one day with a COVID stamp on top of it.
They're in the back room printing it. Mr. Smith.
Anyway.
So if we allocate 100,000 for utility relief, and it's good till 2024 at this point?
Until the end of 2020.
If it's not working well, it's not being used, could we change where that's going to go at that point?
Absolutely.
So there's nothing that says this is, when we do this now, we're locked in, it's going to stay this way. But
a good example is when we got to the end of the last round, the 300 or whatever, we came back and said, hey, we still have X amount of dollars left. We think it'd be best if we reallocate it here because it wasn't used or it wasn't picked up. No.
So I don't want to say that, no, we're not going to make ourselves feel better by not putting it there now, but if it's not working, we could do it later. I would like to make myself feel better.
Okay.
Okay.
And I do want to address one other thing that was or two other things in the comments here. And one was there was no business allocation this time. And I'd like to remind council that we gave out $180,000+ last time to local businesses in grant dollars to help them. Not only did we, but the county did as well, which I sat on a panel with and did application process, and a number of businesses in town received anywhere between $5,000 to $35,000, and there was a lot of money that went out into our business community. And at this point, we've only had one person reach out. They've already received a check the last round, but they did reach out wondering if they could get another one. But this money wasn't intended for businesses this time.
Right.
That there was other limitations to this. And then also it says the hotel motel impact negatively. I'd also like to make it known that our sales tax dollars are up, our revenues are up. The city never really shut down during COVID. I mean, there was some impact. I'm not saying there wasn't. I'm not naive to that. Obviously, we gave money out to businesses that were impacted by COVID and shutting down and those types of things. But I think that we're doing pretty good. I think our businesses in town are doing pretty good. I think that we all have been conscious to shop local and make sure that we're helping out and giving out to the organizations here in town and to our churches. So I just want to address that because those are part of the record, and it's not that we weren't thinking about our business community. We've already helped them. And there you go, I'll leave it at that. The only other thing that I forgot to mention this evening too was this email from Mr. Goddard, and it was to update the audio-visual system here in council chambers, which these dollars can be used for. And I've got an estimate here for about $16,000 to help with that. It would get rid of the camera in the back and put in a better system, better audio, so there could be better engagement from our community. Obviously, it would allow us to continue doing online, but separating out and not doing two and just doing one and then uploading later. So
16,000 seems very reasonable.
Yeah. And that would be put into this room. Again, I know some folks would squawk and say, well, you just spend it on yourself, but this is a way to help folks understand what we're doing here because we have so many. But maybe with better system.
If you're calling in or if you're trying to listen on Zoom, it's very hard to understand what people are saying here because I did Zoom from home one time when I was not feeling good. I could hardly understand what people were saying. So
and this should eliminate that.
We do need a better system.
So, and this is out of Cal, so it's not like we're going down to California to get it, so it's still helping out a Cowlitz County business on top of it. So I'd ask that $16,000 be put in there as well. And before I turn it over to you for further discussion, I'll just turn it over to you for further discussion at this point.
I think Mr. Plaza.
Oh, Mr. Plaza.
Yeah. Well, I don't know let me backtrack. Okay. So not to keep pounding on this utility relief thing.
Okay.
But again, I have a hard time with $100,000 going towards that when we have other things that are just as essential, if not more essential, that need funding just as badly. I mean, for example, all through COVID, and no matter what emergency we have, tornado, flood, zombie apocalypse, there's one agency that always has to be up and running, and that's the police department. They're being mandated all sorts of crazy stuff from the state that the state isn't assisting them with payment for. And so I would like to see at least half of this money going towards the police department to help fund unfunded mandates that they've got coming down on them because of all the new laws and whatevers. So I don't know if I need to make a motion for that or if we can just throw it on the thingy there or what the deal is. But if anybody even else even agrees up here, I could just be the one talking out my ear.
Mr. Boyce.
So we need to know the specifics for what it would be used for.
Okay, just,
determine if it's eligible.
just off the top of my head, $50,000 for body cams.
And I'll have to research to see if that's eligible.
That's the only thing I was concerned with, is if it would qualify for COVID money.
Well, they have to work during COVID. They're affected by
Yeah,
COVID.
I know they did. I know they
So,
did.
It may or may not, I just.
okay, well, if you can look into that and see if that's something that we can do, then that would be great.
Okay.
And then we can use the other 50,000 to make ourselves feel good.
I will agree
Chief?
on that one.
How much are the body cams? Did you say they were 45 or 50?
It's about, for a 5-year commitment, it's about $45,000.
And you've already received how much towards that project?
Mrs. Anderson can help me out with this figure, it's 25 and change. I can't remember, 25,600
25, yeah.
something?
Yeah.
And that was criminal justice money.
So you're still short 20,000, roughly 600.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question. So, if I remember correctly from from Chief Crochet, your body cam footage would then qualify for, it would fall under public records requests, if I'm correct.
Yes, ma'am.
So, we already have an issue where people are spending their productive time fetching files for public records requests. So we would effectively, with this, sorry I'm fogging up, we would have to have that public records person keep hours and hours of video footage for every officer for their like, I'm trying to wrap my head around, I understand the point behind it, but it seems like you would then have to hire one person to just oversee that. Because if I remember the figure that has stuck with me, when Chief Crochet was asked why Woodland did not have body cams, and he was like, yeah, they cost a lot, and King County was the county where somebody did a public records request of every single stitch of video, and it cost the King County like $1 million just to provide those public records.
It would depend on the retention schedule, the state mandated retention schedule for video evidence to be held.
Okay.
Depending on what crime, that varies from forever to 7 years to 10 years and so on. I'm not specific, I'm just throwing those
Right.
numbers out. I don't know exactly what those years or dates look like. Another issue that I'm sure Chief Crochet might have explained to you is the storage situation. Well, with the contract that I'm looking at, storage is unlimited on the cloud. They also provide redaction software and updates during that 5-year period that would benefit an employee responsible for getting public disclosure or for disclosing whatever segment of video or body cam video that would be requested. So I roughly estimate at least a half an FTE exclusively for that.
But this is not just you wanting body cams, this is a requirement now, is that correct?
Well, the requirement is going to be that every custodial arrest starting January 1st of 2022 needs to be recorded.
Right.
Then we could use something like audio recording devices. But in the heat of the moment, will the officer have the state of mind to turn that recording on instead of once they're on the call, the camera starts to record and records all the way through the incident from start to finish. It takes the responsibility or trying to remember in the heat of a situation to turn on and off that recorder. So we're going to be mandated to record minimum any custodial arrest, audio at minimum.
So you only have, this is September now, so you only have a couple months to buy this and everybody be ready to go by January 1?
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha.
Dave, would you be happy if we took 80,000 for water bills and 20,000 to finish off?
That's all they need for that, and if there's no other required things that they need right at this moment, then yeah.
How does everyone feel about 16,000 for the new audio equipment for council chambers?
I say yes. Definitely.
Is that another thing that'll be documented and held up forever and ever so that someone can do a public records request? Just ask it.
Let's see here. A city hall ventilation system. Now again, if this was an estimate for 2 buildings, eventually 2 buildings, and if not, again, if that money's not spent, it will come back to council to be reallocated somewhere else, similar with the utility assistance money, as indicated.
I'm good with that.
Any objection?
Because that would come under a health issue.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good for everybody.
Yes.
Okay. And then the rest would go towards the water and sewer projects at Public Works.
Sounds perfect.
Okay.
And to me, that runs under health and safety too.
Yeah.
All right.
It's the whole city, so.
Right.
Okay, perfect. So I've got 82 utility assistance program, 20,000 to the police department, specifically body cams if available. If not, that 20,000 will have to come back to council for reallocation. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. 16,000 to audio and visual here in council chambers. $100,000 towards city hall ventilation systems, and the remaining balance, which is 1.6 or so, to water sewer projects at the direction of Ms. Coleman.
Sounds great.
Oh, just one more real quick question.
Yes.
As far as the premium pay
Mhm.
to full-time employees, that's for every department, police, public works.
Oh yes, I didn't write that down.
Everything, right?
I think that's a good question.
I think council should discuss that before granting that. There, you could go either way with this one. There could be those that support it, similar to a resolution, and those that will not support that and think that money could be better used somewhere else. There could be issues with some employees feel that they were on the front line, although this is appreciation, and there has been hazard pay through other organizations, not only throughout the state but through the country as well, that maybe I deserve more or than the other person, because they got to work from home and I still had to be out in the rain and shoveling whatever or still contacting the public. It is a slippery slope, but it was something that was discussed, so that's why I brought it forward.
Question.
Yes.
Is that for current employees, or are we
Correct.
paying that to any people that were employees at any point during COVID?
No, we stated current essential city workers.
Oh, okay. I missed that current part.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
So I had just a note, I don't want to interrupt you, but before I forget, 80,000 over 2 years would be $3,333.33 a month budgeted out of what utilities would be, of what kind of utility assistance would. So I mean, that's a pretty good amount.
Okay.
That could help what? Like if your bill's 700 and, I mean, that's a couple, 3 people at least a month.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I think more along the lines of, not that saying, but we have a very large population of mature individuals in communities within the city that are one-person households, especially over in the Woodland East, and I know that
Yes.
they're struggling with their rents. It's not going to be a water bill like mine. I've got 5 people that live in my house, and they're 1 to 2 with barely any water usage. So that number, you probably help out more than that. I would think.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Plaza.
Okay, again, I'm going to sound like a jerk.
That's what it starts like.
Or maybe I'm not. If somebody can clarify, is that $1,250 for every full-time employee, including managers, directors, all that? It is?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, here we go, and you guys are all going to hate me and throw me dirty looks and curse at me, behind my back. Personally, I think department directors are well compensated for the position that they're in. And if we're going to, and I understand they were affected by COVID as well. However, I believe that staff level employees would benefit more from this. And so if we're going to do it, I think it should just be for the frontline people. And that's just me.
No, just the front line.
Does frontline include city council members?
No.
I'm kidding.
You're already raking it in. What are you talking about?
Keep talking like that, people are going to be on Facebook.
That would triple my salary.
Right.
So anyway, so that's just my personal opinion. Discuss.
I kind of agree with you, but I also feel like if we want to have an environment of inclusivity, that because department heads had to navigate a lot of random challenges to then send their people out as safely as possible to do their jobs. I mean, we're just not in a position, the city isn't in a position to ever give anybody anything extra. Am I correct with that, Mr. Mayor? That, like, you can't just decide to give everybody gift cards or anything because, hey,
Oh,
you
true.
guys are
Yeah.
awesome?
Well, it's a gift of public funds. I mean, and some could even look at it this way as well. I mean, you could look at it that way as well. These are tax dollars. However, they've made some different rules with them. But no, there's no. We do employee appreciation lunches and those types of things a few times throughout the year. But other than that, that's just to say thank you. But no, there's no. Here's $20. Merry Christmas. No.
Gotcha.
That's a good point. I didn't consider that. So, yeah, never mind. So, no, that's a good point. The directors did have to do a lot of juggling and navigating through this whole fiasco that we had last year.
They also had to take on a bunch of extra duties.
They did. So I'll retract that idea. Throw it in. It sounded good at the time, but it actually was pretty bad.
Well, that's why we talk about it.
That's why this is a workshop.
That's right.
Any other thoughts or comments?
Hey, I feel really chatty and I apologize. I feel like that just kind of triggered in my brain. I feel like we should at some point have like a separate conversation about how to best appreciate our staff, right? I just kind of think maybe that's a thing we need
Well,
to
we have
think about.
Clerks Week, we have Public Works Week, we have Police Week. Is there a Community Development Week? Mayor Appreciation? Mayor Appreciation Day? I think that we do a pretty good. Well, I mean, I think that the directors do a great job at letting their employees know how much they appreciate them. I try as much as I can, but.
Well, we don't want anyone to think you're not being nice.
Playing favorites?
Yes, yes, not being nice.
Not being nice, yeah.
Because I think money is one thing. I mean,
Mhm.
because like everybody digs money.
Right.
Hard cash makes everything better, but,
Right.
We're being recognized as doing a good job also.
right. That a lot of the things that went on in this town, I don't think people really fully understand the challenges of not being able to, two people who work in the same department who need to assist each other, we're not allowed to be near each other to fix the thing that their job requires them to fix so somebody can have water or sewer. I mean, it was just like all this randomness that made everything a challenge that I don't think everybody kind of internalized of how COVID impacted them, but they don't really understand the challenges that every staff member kind of had to navigate. So yeah, I just feel like there should be more, like, I don't know. I'm feeling like, I don't know, cake, birthday cake.
Birthday
We need to have more cake,
More
but
cake.
something.
I will do my best to do more cake at the office. Yes. Okay.
So are we voting on what's happening
After we
tonight?
come out of
or-
workshop here.
Don't we have to, doesn't he have to check on the
To make sure
authority or the
Well,
okayness of the?
Couldn't we amend
The
that
city council could adopt it that way, and if it turns
Yes.
out it can't be used for that, I could come back on that one issue.
Okay.
If council's comfortable with that,
Yeah.
or we could pull that 20,000 out and just wait until the research is done.
No, let's just go ahead and do the first one.
Okay. So I got 80,000 utility assistance, 20,000 to the PD for specifically body cam, 16,000 for audio visual, $100,000 for venting, and the remainder to water and sewer projects throughout the city.
And what's the deal on the premium pay?
Are we going to wait on that to kind of discuss what's
How
going
much
to?
is left? Do we have to take it out of the 1.6 mil?
Yeah, whatever is there.
Okay, well, what was your math?
Again, I just.
Do we want to take
Sure.
public input on that one to see how well that goes?
What do you think?
I mean,
Here's one of them.
no, there's buckets of money to throw around, so I mean, I get it. It's 41 grand at the end of the day. And I see your point, and I see your point at the end of the day. So I don't know. I don't know what the right thing is. Do we hold off for now, because we can always reallocate it, and then see what public input is on it, see if it's something that people can swallow it a little bit
Well,
more.
I would caution you on that, to say, hey, we're going to do this, and then turn around and then take it away.
Yeah.
That's with something like that, because there's going to be expectation for follow-through, and then, oh, here you go, oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Mrs. Graham?
Oh, that's it out loud?
I've been sitting here trying to analyze this whole thing for the premium pay, for essential city workers. City workers are all essential, we know that, otherwise we couldn't flush our toilets or do anything like that. I don't feel that we have well, I'm trying to find the right words. I might think about it about
Say it in a
midnight.
nice way? That's always my problem.
Well, yeah. There's good ways and then there's better ways, and then there's ways that are inappropriate, and it came, you know. I don't think personally myself that I could agree with that.
Mr. Plaza?
Because I think
Mrs.
they're well
Graham?
paid. They put in their time. We haven't. Yeah, so they had to put a mask or stand 6 feet apart, or, but gosh darn, they were employed and had their jobs, and.
What's the manager's
I just
take on it, as far as, I mean, it seems like, I know that, I would love to give people money.
Right.
But I know the city also said work from home and accommodated a ton during this time to try to mitigate issues as well as they could. So part of me says, yeah, give everybody $1,200, and the other part of me sits back and says, it seems like everybody's throwing money at everybody right now. And
Mr. Plaza?
Okay, hopefully this idea will be better. Not idea, but opinion. Okay, so I sense after sitting here listening to everybody talk, obviously my first idea was a stinker. But then I've been kind of like going over what the possible optics of paying city employees who were employed all during COVID an extra $1,250 when on the same but action item, we're saying, well, people are so bad off, we got to help them with their utility bills. So how will it look to Billy Bob, everyday man, when he sees us throwing cash at city employees who have been working this entire time, when, according to them, that money could be better spent elsewhere. So my thinking on that has evolved, and I don't think that that's something that we should be taking into consideration right now. Maybe it's something that we could think about later, but I think that needs to be put on hold for the moment.
Okay.
That's just me.
Mrs. Graham, are you in agreement with that? I see you nodding your head. I'm trying to figure out how this is going to go here. Mr. Smith?
I think same thing. We can reallocate money once we figure out a little bit more. I don't think we've got all the info on it. I think having a few more conversations with department heads and seeing what works best for the city, I think a little more time. We can always reallocate money going forward. So, and like I said, I don't think we want to just say, yes, you can have it, and then it end up coming back where we pull it. I don't think that's a great idea either. So, I think we need to do more research and see what the best case scenario is for the city.
This side of the room?
Well, I got a feeling I like it too. We can wait because what we talked about it's already hit Voice of Woodland, so we'll play plenty of feedback on what they feel about it. So
Yeah, the damage of that is true.
So you know, so yeah, we can kind of hold off and wait.
Okay.
So just to clarify, in the paperwork for this funding mechanism, does this actually say for grants to eligible private employers to provide hazard pay to essential workers? Like, that's a way you could use this money.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you could give it to a grocery store to pay their employees hazard pay for working during a pandemic, but you can't with city employees. You can with a private business. I just find the wording, I find it interesting, just the extra little they've put onto the money, because I think that, again, kind of muddies the waters when...
So you think that's saying that it can't go to them, that only can go to businesses?
Because, yeah, it says for grants to eligible private employers to provide hazard pay to essential workers. So...
On the second page of the MRSC document, the bulleted items, it indicates, let's see, the 1, 2, 3, 4th bulleted item. Excuse me. For premium pay, hazard pay up to $13 an hour, not to exceed $25,000 to any individual employee to eligible local government essential workers.
Okay. Up to $13 an hour.
How many hours?
Question?
But that's hazard pay. That's just, we are discussing like kicking everybody $12.50 and saying, yo, gee, happy Friday. And this is saying it's actually hazard pay. So like, to mitigate, I think that's weird. I mean, because everybody's telling me, like, I'm getting tagged in all these posts on social media about how, like, the different city employees, unions will mitigate the damage of whatever we just passed last meeting, right? Anyway. So I'm confused by this. You can pay up to $13 an hour hazard pay to a union employee that their union's going to mitigate their but they're going to mitigate their hazard? I'm confused. I'm sorry, I don't speak government very well.
Yeah, so basically, we would have to go back and get to that $12.50 and calculate on an hourly basis up to $13 an hour for an employee to get to that $12.50.
Gotcha, okay.
Mr. Smith.
So, I guess to me with hazard pay, I guess, is there a way to like set a bank to where if somebody did have COVID, there was a bank of money that would cover that employee taking the the quarantine time off to make sure that, you could mitigate the hazards of that person coming in to where they would feel more comfortable by taking the time off versus coming in sick? Can we put that into a bank to try to mitigate? And then at that point, it would be truly hazard pay to make sure that it's reducing the hazards for people.
I think that would be acceptable. I'd have to do my homework to make sure.
Okay. So it sounds like we have to discuss more, or have to wait for more info at the end of the day. So we can always reallocate later if we get some more info on it.
So what are you suggesting then to?
So we just, well, if I'm understanding right, the only thing is
Allocate the money except for the premium pay, and then if we need to modify it later, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, so just withhold 42,000 and some change off to the side.
Off the bonus for you, yeah.
With nothing, okay. Okay, perfect. So we'll call it 42,000 reserve.
Right.
Okay. All right, 80,000 utility assistance, 20,000 for specifically body cam, 16,000 audio for and visual, and the council chambers 100,000 for ventilation, 42,000 into a reserve bank, and the remaining to water and sewer projects.
Agreed.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, the time is now 9:15. We are out of workshop. Moving on to action item J, allocate American Rescue Plan funds.
I make a motion that we approve action item, what is it? J. Allocate American Rescue Plan funds.
Second.
Do we have to exempt the 42, or are we going off of what you wrote
We just
there?
put it into a reserve bank.
Okay.
I put it into a reserve bank.
Okay.
And seconded by, who said second? By Mr. Plaza.
Mr. Randolph, how do I not participate in this vote?
I'm sorry, can you?
Do I not participate in this motion right now, voting on this motion? Because if utilities were to come to a place I volunteer at,
I don't think they're going to you. I think there was discussion about maybe.
benefit from it. It's not going to your
I
pocket.
just want to make sure
You're not-
that we are 100%
It hasn't been
open.
decided what organization is going to go to as of yet.
Okay.
I
Well,
would
and
say
even
that's a
if-
fair assessment.
Gotcha.
Even if she was, she's not profiting from it.
Yeah. she's not
So-
profiting from it,
Correct.
I agree.
Okay.
All right. Motion by Councilmember Rounds, second by Councilmember Plaza. Councilmember Rounds.
Well, I think we've discussed it quite a bit in workshop, and so I think we've come up with a pretty good plan here.
Councilmember Plaza.
Same.
Further discussion. Mr. Smith.
I mean, at the end of the day, whatever we come up with, it's not going to be 100%. And we can always change it later. If we need to modify it, we can. I think we had the right intent tonight to try to do what we can and allocate it to somewhere, but you're not going to make everybody happy.
Further discussion?
That is true.
Just to be perfectly clear, though, there are rules in place for how this money can and cannot be spent, and we are playing within those rules. Just so if anybody thinks we made this up as we went along, there are actually rules attached to this fund.
Correct.
So,
All right, seeing nothing else. Mrs. Anderson, action item J, allocate American Rescue Plan funds in the amount of 80,000 utility assistance program, 20,000 to body cams for the PD, 16,000 for audio visual into the council chambers, $100,000 towards ventilation system at City Hall, $42,000 in a reserve bank, and the remaining balance for water and sewer projects at this time.
Councilmember Holland?
aye.
Councilmember Graham?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
All right, action item J has passed. The time is now 9:18.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Holland, second by Councilmember Smith this evening. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?